Hi family, how's everyone doing today? Today I'm going to be talking about how the narcissist destroys your self-esteem. When you enter that relationship with the narcissist, just close your eyes and actually think about what you was like before the narcissist broke you down. If that was a family member, maybe a parent, what was you like as a child? Think about your personality. Think about your confidence, the confidence that you had. If it's your parents that broke you down, were you one of those kids that were not afraid to talk to any adult? You were not afraid to state your feelings, your opinions, you were okay with asking for what you wanted. And then as you got to a certain age, maybe 15, 16 years old, you realized that you want something but you don't like to inconvenience people. Maybe you go to a friend's house, they offer you, I don't know, a treat, and you decline, but you really do want it. Where did this come from? Because as a child, you would probably ask them for that treat and you wouldn't even wait for it to be offered. But now that you have been broken down by your parents, siblings, family members, you feel like you can't even take anything from anyone because you've been groomed to be an independent woman, or you don't want to be a leech. You don't want to be a burden. If we go back to the romantic side of it, when did the narcissist make you that way? How did they do that? I know when I go back to myself, I used to know a lot of people, different colors, different ages. I used to talk to a lot of people. I didn't just have one set of friends at school. I spoke to every group of people. And it got to a point where I ended up not speaking to anybody, which is absolutely weird because the kind of person I used to be before the narcissist, my phone would be ringing all the time. And I think that's what they didn't like. And if you think about it now, the narcissists like supply. So the reason they had to break you down because they were jealous that you were getting more supply than they were, for example. Or maybe they're in competition where they want to have more supply than you. And where I'm going with this is that when I was with the narcissist, okay, it got to a point where my phone, nobody would call my phone. I was isolated by everybody. Nobody would call my phone. The only people that will call my phone is my mother. She wants to know what time I'm coming home because I'm still very young. And then I might get two close friends that will call me, but they'll call me now and then, not all the time. And then all his friends and his family members. His friends will call me asking where he is. His family members will call me and ask me where he is. And it got to a point, do you know what? I've had so many red flags. One of these red flags, okay, was my ex's dad would call me to rant about his son. That should have been a major red flag. But at the time, I saw it as he's not happy with my ex. And my ex is hard of hearing. And they felt like the only way they could get through him was through me. But now I know it wasn't that. But I'm going off topic, as I usually do. The way that my ex did it was very clever. He would never say, you look like a slag in that dress. Like, the kind of person I was before, I would just be like, or be like, have you seen this person? It got to a point where it's like, that dress is a bit short, doesn't really do much for you, and, you're classier than that. He would always be like, oh, you're classier than that, you're this, than that, basically making it out like the way I'm dressing, the way I'm looking is making me look less than what I am. So it was kind of like, even though he was bringing me down, he was bringing me up at the same time. Well, I felt like he was bringing me up at the same time, if that makes sense. So it was kind of saying, right now, this dress that you're wearing is down here, but you're actually up here, right? So that's how the manipulation happened. It was never, you look like a slag, take it off, I'm going to control you. No, because then I would have clocked. This one was a bit more sneaky. It was more like, oh, this looks more like you. That's not really your kind of dress sense. So different ways of breaking me down, oh, my cousin, does that for her boyfriend. My mum does that for my dad. It's always what other women are doing for their men. And I'm just not on that level. So it's bringing down my self-esteem. I can't cook that dish, so it's bringing down my self-esteem. I don't look like that, or my hair's not that length, or, you know, it's, for me, he focused more on my body. So at the time, I was like size 8. I was very, 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 very small. I'm not telling you my size now because that's nosy. But I was very, very small. And he kept saying, you don't eat enough food. You need to eat more food. You know, anytime I tried to do a dance that maybe a thicker girl would be doing that dance, he'd be like, you can't do the dance, you're too skinny. And it was always like, always talking about how I'm skinny, I'm skinny, I'm skinny, I'm skinny. To a point, I was obsessed with going online and looking at girls who were a bit more on the thick side. And that is so, like, that was bringing down my self-esteem, and I didn't even know it. I've never wanted to be thick. I was happy with my slim body before I met them. I was happy. I just wasn't happy because I didn't have any hips, like I'm straight. So, but this is before obviously childbirth. But I was very straight, so I wanted to be on the thicker side. And he's always like, oh, you know, you're not thick, so don't do that dance, or you're not this, or, you know, it was always comparing me. It was mainly about what I'm doing for him rather than how I'm looking. This is why I didn't really clock, because he would just say, you know, you're too skinny to do that dance. He wouldn't say, I need you to be thicker. Yeah. He wouldn't say, oh, you look like a slag in that dress. He would say, you're too classy to wear that. So the way he worded it was very smart, but it did chip down my self-esteem. So you have to be very careful, because sometimes you're not even going to notice the way people are. I didn't even notice until that picture that I show you guys. If you can't remember the before and after photo, that's on my community tab, and it's also on my Instagram page. If you haven't followed my Instagram page, what are you doing? I was so skinny that my mouth looked massive and my nose looked wide and my skin, like, you could see, it broke down my self-esteem with me being skinny, me not being able to do certain things, like cook certain dishes, because he was Nigerian. He was like, oh, this white Polish woman can cook her Nigerian husband Nigerian meals. But I'm like, I will learn when I get that ring on my finger. You're trying to make me do wife duties for a man who, anyway, I'm not even going to get into that. So I can't cook like that. I don't look like that. There was always something wrong with me. Always something wrong with me. And when I asked him I said, but you never say that I'm beautiful. You never take me out on date night. Oh, you always want date night. I can't remember the last time we had date night. So that's crazy. Can't remember the last time I went on holiday with you. The last time we went on holiday, I paid for it again. So, you know, I should have seen that this guy wasn't interested. And I'm not going to blame it on nobody else but myself. However, I didn't have any friends around. I don't have any older siblings. Nobody sat down and said, look, this is not how a man's meant to treat you. Look, this is how a man's meant to treat you. You're a princess. I'm your dad. I'm going to treat you like a princess. If a man don't have that level, forget it. Break down your self-esteem to a point where by the time that before and after photo that I showed you, at that point, I was at my lowest. They kept saying stuff to me like, oh, what would you do if I left?